Welcome back. It's time for another edition of ACC Baseball Etc, presented as always by our good friends at Pitch Logic, the system used by players, coaches, scouts, and instructors at all levels of play, from youth leagues to the big leagues. The easy-to-use and affordable technology makes the platform accessible to every player at every level. All the metrics and features used at the highest level. You can go to pitchlogic.com for more information. I'm Daron Vaught. Glad you're with us for yet another preseasoning interview in our series of talks with all 16 ACC head coaches prior to the start of this season. Today, it's my pleasure to be joined by Pitt's Mike Bell, who enters season number 7, right, Mike? Is that correct?
7, yeah. Seems like yesterday, but it's 7.
7 years in the making here for Mike Bell at Pitt. Well, it's good to see you. I talked before we started rolling that I love this time of year because I get to catch up with everybody, people I maybe haven't talked to since we did this last season, or I saw you at a game that I was covering last season. So I hope you're doing well. Hope the off season was great and that the Panthers there are getting ready to roll.
We are. And, it's actually been a really enjoyable off season. I thought our fall program went really well, acclimating a lot of new guys, in today's world of college athletics, whether you're bringing in young guys or old guys, whether they're coming from the junior college ranks or the portal ranks, like you're basically rebuilding or reloading or reconforming your team each and every year. And, how do you get them to gel together with your system, but more importantly, care for each other and how to buy in. And we did a lot of things in the fall. Some things new this year that we were excited about. And I feel like these guys are right where they need to be. And as I look outside, we're always 75 and sunny here, at least when we're working inside. And we won't be outside today as we have a lot of white stuff falling from the sky. But we're excited. We're excited to get started. And we know it's here. Once you kind of go through the ABCA meetings and hit the New Year's cycle and they're back, they're ready to roll.
Yeah, a couple things there I want to follow up on. You mentioned doing some new things in the fall.
Yeah.
A, Mike, what were those things? B, I'm curious, after you get a handful of years in, there's a lot of the sort of the getting comfy in a job is done. And then there's that next step of changing things up. It's past the getting cozy in your role and understanding that you've constantly got to be adapting and changing new things. What goes into considering introducing something new into the mix, even in place of something that, it might not necessarily be broken, so you don't have a need to fix it, but you think, okay, maybe this could work better.
Yeah, and that's tough for a lot of coaches to go outside your box, to try something new. But I do think in today's world of athletics, and we're in constant change right now. We know that. And it's not that something was broken, but how can we continue to do things better? How can we maybe take it to another level? And I like a lot of the core guys that we have coming back and what we've built over the last couple of years, whether they've been in our program for 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years, but finding new ways to gel guys together. And through some conversations with some locals here, I kind of stumbled into something called Breakthrough Pro, which is kind of a leadership class. Ironically, a Pittsburgh native, Sean Casey, the mayor, former big leaguer.
Oh, yeah. Former teammate of usual co-host of this show, Danny Graves. Yeah.
Yes. And Danny can talk about him probably for days. And I felt like this was a marriage to happen. And I know we didn't talk about this on the front end, but actually I was at a donor outing, talking with a donor, and he's like, hey, you might want to look into this. He's like, this is something that's real. And getting to know Sean and his love for the area, getting to know the love for baseball, we were able to bring him in and do 6 or 7 sessions. And what it opened up with our guys, allowing our guys to open up with each other. These are life qualities that carry over into baseball. And the way that these guys were able to come together in these sessions, it was really interesting. You got to learn a lot more about the individual and maybe peel back some layers or some things that each and every individual can work on individually to get better, but all collectively help us maybe through some of those tough times and that grind of the season. So credit to Sean and JD, his staff, but that Breakthrough Pro Series was really big for us. Baseball is baseball. And when you're out on the field working and doing what you love to do in the fall and you're getting after it, these guys love it. And yeah, the competition side of it and they're bonding. But this was another level for us. And I'm hoping that we're going to see the fruits of the labors as what we put into it in the fall and how it carries over through the grind of the season.
Nice. That sounds really, really interesting. Following up on another broader question, or something else broad that you mentioned. You talked about the snow on the ground outside. And in a lot of areas, this has been a historically significant winter.
Yeah.
So I'm sure Pittsburgh's gotten its fair share of it. This is a challenge, not unique to you and the Panthers, because there is Notre Dame, Boston College also in the league. But you're the few teams that maybe deal with this occasionally at the beginning of the season. How have you been able to navigate that over the years and overcome it? Because you can't forecast that opening week of practice you're going to have 3 inches of snow on the ground or whatever. You kind of have to be agile to whatever degree you need to based on the year and the current circumstances.
Yeah, it's a great point, a great question. Like, you don't hide from it. It is what it is. You know what you sign up for. We've got guys on our roster from Florida, Texas, California, Vegas, as well as the Northeast. And even in the recruiting process, I'll guarantee them, like, we're still going to be 75 and sunny here, as we always like to say. We just might not be outside doing that, but we have the facilities, we have the structure, the infrastructure in our program to be able to have them prepared to compete at the highest level. I truly think the grind of the travel early in the year, on the flip side, allows us to come together. You learn a lot about your teammates. You learn a lot about your program, your players, when you're going with the early morning flights and the long weekends, and you're going to different places and creating new experiences for these individuals. And in some ways, trying to create that routine to get ready for that conference grind. But thank goodness with our administrative support here, our school support, we have the facilities in place to be able to compete at the highest level. We just have to do it different than others. We have live at-bats going on today. To me, it simplifies the game and allows you to really get to the fine tooth and find details of some of the major components that allow you to expose some things that you hope you don't wait till your game times to expose them. Let's go ahead and identify those right now if we can. So our live at-bats, our indoor practices, we're able to do anything and everything. And one thing I was really taking a lot of pride from our staff in the previous 6 years is we've always had our guys physically and mentally ready to compete on day one.
Yeah, no doubt. This next question is my last big picture before we dig into your team.
Yeah.
And it's about the newcomers to the conference.
Yeah.
Cal and Stanford. You guys actually saw Cal last year in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
I remember. And you with the exceptions of like Elliott Avent, who's been in NC State for a long time, Danny Hall, who's been at Georgia Tech for a long time. Believe it or not, Mike, you're kind of in that second tier as far as tenured ACC baseball coaches, head coaches goes.
There's still Dan McDonald and Brian O'Connor. I got a ways to go on that. I'm over the 50-year-old mark, and I don't put myself into that situation yet. No, bringing in Cal and Stanford, I'll tell you what, 2 storied programs. Michael New does a phenomenal job at Cal. He's probably in that tenure as I am, but he's been at 3 different spots. Competed against him when he was a head coach at Pacific. We've played them the last 2 years. They came here for a 3-game set 2 years ago. We made the trek to Vegas last year and got a chance to play them. They're always going to pitch it at a high level. He's a phenomenal pitching instructor, but his program, very athletic players. They play the game the right way. And when you hear Stanford and Stanford baseball, I mean, David is high class, but the Cardinal logo, like sunken diamond, the history behind that program. If you're a college baseball enthusiast from the days of Johnny Rosenblatt to now TD Ameritrade, as you said, I think they went 3 years in a row before they took a year off last year. Like what those two programs are going to bring to our program. And it's really neat to hear you say 16-team league. Because being a former player in this league back in the mid-90s, to see the development of the programs, the teams, the depth that is provided, it just keeps getting stronger and stronger. And I'm really excited to see what the postseason tournaments hold and where these bids start going as well, too. Because when you take away the pack on the West Coast and you add these teams to the SEC, ACC, I don't think you can just sit there and look at 10, 11 bid leagues. You have to look at the depth and the quality of these programs. And there's going to be a lot of grind, a lot of beating each other up. And there's going to have to take a lot of that in consideration when you look at the quality of the depth and the talent on these teams.
I'm so glad, Mike, to hear, and you're not the first to express this kind of enthusiasm for the additions. I'm so glad to hear that you guys are excited about this newness and the changes and the challenges even that it will present with cross-country travel, just a small part of those.
Yeah, the travel is going to be interesting. We're on the fortunate side of this year. We don't play either one of them, so I get to see how everybody else is going to adapt to this. But, at the end of the day, I mean, whether you're going west, coming back east, you're going to make adjustments, whether it's timing-wise or how you travel or how you schedule on the front end or the back end of those weekends. And ultimately, as coaches, we're going to have our guys ready to play.
On to the 2025 Panthers. I want to ask about perhaps the headliner on this team in Luke Cantwell. I got a text from Mike Rooney last year while you guys were in Vegas. And in typical Runes fashion, he says, DV, I've got your new favorite ACC player. I just know it. I know he's going to be a Daron guy.
Yep.
And it come to find out, I love the way he played as the season progressed, and I got to watch Luke play and catch more and more of your guys' games. What is it about him that aligns so perfectly with your Pitt baseball program?
I think the biggest thing is he brings it every day, the consistency that he brings. And as coaches, you've kind of heard the analogy of you're either an energy giver or energy sucker. And you don't want those guys around there to just sucking the energy out of the room or your team or your dugout. This guy doesn't just bring energy every day. He elevates everybody else's energy around him. And it's a true, genuine way that he does it because he cares about his teammates. He cares about individuals. I had to laugh. I went to go watch him and Phil Fox, our closer last year, up in the Cape the first half of the year. And I get there for BP and they got him mic'd up. And I'm thinking, if there's one guy you want mic'd up, it's this guy, because it's going to be constant content. Like, he can't stop talking. He can't stop elevating people around him. And I remember that conversation with Runes leading up to the Vegas series. I said, Runes, I think he's going to be the most loved guy in the league and be the most hated guy in the league. It's just one of those guys you love to have on your team. You love him when you really know him. But if you don't really know him, you're like, what the heck's that all about? It's not a show. And there's times that, I've had to, hey, as a coach, like, hey, let's just make sure we're directing this towards us. This isn't directing towards or disrespecting an opponent or umpires or anything. That's just the way he plays the game. He plays it loud, but he plays it in a Gritzberg type fashion. And I think he's been the perfect fit, as a portal. And you worry about sometimes bringing guys, especially older guys, into a program. How do they have the ability to conform to what you try? And it's not conforming him, but using what his strengths are and elevating others around him.
Yeah, I think that's really, really, really well said. So he'll be back, and assumedly your everyday first baseman as a senior.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking around the rest of the infield, and Mike, I gotta say, I like what you guys have in terms of sure things, assuming no injury.
Don't tell too many people. All right.
Yeah, right.
Now, there's a lot of innings and a lot of at bats coming back there. They all have to work to get better in their areas. Jake Kendrow played a lot of games for us at shortstop last year. He's very solid. It's a very comfortable feeling as a coach when the ball's hit in that direction, because as a shortstop, he's always under control, and that's a beautiful thing. But his experiences at Tennessee before he got here and what he was able to settle in, I think he's added some pounds, added some strength, which was really good. I think he got a little worn down by the end of the year last year. He looks in a really good spot right now. Cade Doolin is a junior college shortstop that played a little bit at Bryant his freshman year. They can play second, play short. Both of those guys, as well as Gavin Miller, who transferred in from Auburn, who will do some work at second, maybe even at third, but more likely at second. So a combination of those three guys in the middle there. You talked about, experience. Ryan Zuckerman played a lot as a true freshman. And by design, we had him, go out for about a half of summer ball to get some more at-bats. So then he could kind of get the body right and ready coming back, and he looks the part. And you just want to see continued trajectory in his areas, cut down the strikeouts, but continue to add the power numbers. You continue to understand the speed of the game and the range at third, but love where he's at right now and how he's growing each and every day. And there's some other key components in there as well, as Anthony LaSala and Keaton Burrows, who are scrappy utility guys that can fill in or push others around them. And then we like where we're at there with the infield. There's a lot of familiarity there.
Yeah, and even more so with Jaden Melendez coming back behind the plate. I mean, that's a huge luxury to have that kind of experience from the jump at your catcher position.
Yeah, and when Josh Spiegel last year DH and caught a little bit for us as Sebastian Piscaretto was a freshman, and was really taken off with his at-bats and had a hit by pitch and either a finger or wrist injury, but allowed Sebastian Piscaretto to get in the last third of the year, maybe get 40 at-bats in some key spots. He caught some midweek as well. The balance and what we've been able to see with Piscaretto and Melendez, because Piscaretto, that bat's real as well. I think we're going to be able to balance some things and help Jaden out as well. And I think they're both going to be able to take off. Coach Mesoraco does a phenomenal job with our catchers, also with the approach side of things from a hitting, from a day-to-day, more on the scouting side of who we're facing and what we're trying to do. But we kind of went back and looked at the Nationals when they won the World Series, and I think it was 2019, and they had Suzuki and Yan Gomes catching. And I kind of told them, I think we might be better off here. I'm not saying a platoon situation, but really balancing things out with the at-bats and behind the dish. Both of them, like you said, there's a lot of leadership there, but both of them have done a phenomenal job in what they work with our pitchers and the communication. I think it could help both of them elevate their game instead of getting worn down. Yeah,
because Melendez started a ton of games for you guys last year, right? So, I mean, it seems to there's a calculus there that you guys do as coaches, and it's from individual to individual, right? Like, where's their threshold where if we go past it, it's diminishing returns, but there's a sweet spot somewhere in terms of we're going to get the absolute most out of this player.
Yeah, and it, I've come from an older system. And Coach Martin, I mean, he would ride some guys. Cal Raleigh wasn't afraid to catch 56 or things of that nature. But also, you're seeing it in today's game with the 10-run rule, where you might have been able to get a younger guy in the game, for the 7th, 8th, and the 9th and sit your starter, where sometimes you get the big inning late when you didn't have it. Now, next thing you know, you don't have that inning or two to kind of get the young guy in there. So it's tough. You have to be strategic, and that's why the development side of our practices, our bullpen settings, or our live sessions like we have today, they're valuable. They're very valuable because there's a lot of big coaching moments going on there.
Yeah, that's an excellent point too about the 10-run rule, changing the way you guys have to approach that sort of thing, getting younger guys or bench players more experience. Yeah, that's fascinating.
Probably one of the toughest things, I think, as a young head coach, not just writing the lineup, but when the game is still intact. And we all know in college baseball, that thing can flip in a hurry. And I remember in a lot of our coaches meetings early on when we were starting to decide on some of those older guys, a lot wiser than I am. They're like, these are opportunities that we're going to miss out on some of these young guys, but I think it's for the best of the game with TV and the streaming and, as far as keeping guys healthy from a pitch standpoint as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So from the infield, let's move to the outfield where I think there are far more question marks. Headed into this season. I do like some of the pieces you have there, like AJ Nessler is back. Lorenzo Carrier, a Miami transfer, did some really nice things for the Hurricanes in his time there, but it's no more CJ Funk, no more Don Popa. What's the outfield picture look like as of right now?
Yeah, I think that's the first time in 50 years that you're not going to hear the name Popa in the outfield here, as he and his brother have roamed the Garons there. And I think Dad played here years and years ago as well. But, Dom and CJ, who was a starter for 4 years, we're going to miss those guys and what they brought each and every day. But the familiarity, getting AJ Nessler back, somebody that really grew with us as a freshman, and his experiences of going to postseason last year, love the competitor, the quality at bat and what he brings to a team, the toughness, the blue collar mentality. And like you said, I think there's 3 to 4 other pieces there that are really, really valuable. You said, Carrier has a lot of quality at bats at the University of Miami, big power, a lot of upside there. Just got to make sure we're putting the ball in play and eliminate the swing and miss. But, it's a physical outfield tool with a plus arm and really a lot of raw power there. In our center field position, I feel like Derek Tarpley Jr., who's a local product that spent his freshman year at Youngstown State, had an ankle injury, but he was a draft pick by the A's 2 years ago and turned down a significant amount of money. It's a beautiful looking athlete. He gets better and better each and every day. I worry that football is going to look over at him one day and be like, that guy should be playing wide receiver for us. What's he doing? I mean, it is a specimen. DK Padano, transferred from Dayton. I think he was, double digit home runs, like 30 bags for them last year, played a little bit in the Cape, but there's an experienced bat who can also go in and back up at first or fill in at first if needed. He's played a little bit of outfield as well as first. And then Julian Irizarry is a true freshman left-handed bat that we've got, and Logan Duffy transferring in from the junior college ranks. So there are a couple left-handed options there, but, not a lot of returners from the Pitt side of things there, but there is a lot of experience there. And we like the physicality. We like the athleticism, what we were able to acquire.
Yeah, for sure. Seems like the cupboard is not bare, even if it is unfamiliar faces for the most part. I'll tell you, knowing what little I do about Tarpley, the dynamic between having him and Lorenzo Carrier in the same outfielding unit is scary.
It might go on Runes' all body team. I mean, Tarpley's like a 6'4" runner, but it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Yeah. And like I said, Carrier can run a little bit too. He's sneaky. He's sneaky for the physicality that he has. So the body and the uniforms, they're going to fill those out very nicely.
It's like you've got Willie Mays Hayes and Pedro Serrano body wise out there. That's what that is. It's a fun dynamic.
There you go. That's a good one. Jabu.
All right, so let's talk pitching because Ryan and Jack gone. That was like close to 30 starts combined for you last spring. You mentioned Phil Fox earlier, your All-American closer, outgoing as well. But there are some pieces here. This is kind of like the outfield, right? It's gonna not be as familiar as the infield, but it feels like you've got some good pieces to work with.
Yeah, it's interesting. you're always looking at numbers and stuff. And I think we're losing like 60% of our innings from last year. And I think doing this over 20 years and being on the pitching side of it as well, like it was the first time ever it kind of hit me at the end of the year. Like we didn't change Friday, Saturday, Sunday from start to finish. And a lot of times you're moving guys around or, hey, somebody's nicked up a little bit or you need to take a week off. And, we stuck through some stuff too. Not to say we gave extra chances, but there was a lot of growth there, with Andre on Friday, who really was going from a bullpen at Rhode Island to really developing into a starter and really taking off the second half of the year. And I think, a 7th round pick with the Rays was actually a steal for them with the metrics. And I think he's got a chance to really blossom. I thought Ryan Reed handled Sunday really well for us and gave us quality innings. Jack Sokol was just Jack. You look up and next thing you know, you're in the 5th or the 7th and you're going, wait a minute, how did we get here? But he just constantly gave you consistency and that veteran piece on Saturday. But there was a couple other guys. Matt Fernandez was a phenomenal piece for us in the middle frames or even some days when Phil needed a day off late in the game. And what Phil did, I mean, it was almost historic. When you talk about 45 strikeouts to 3 walks in 36 innings, it's as locked down as it ever was. And, he was beautiful. As long as we gave him enough rest and recovery, it was shut down city. And, when you heard Renegade rolling in there through the PA at a home game, it was like a Steelers 4th quarter around here. Like it was locked down. So it was great to see. And we're excited to follow him in the White Sox organization as well. But I like some of the pieces we have back, and I like what we've been able to bring in. I feel like we've got some stuff on a couple key guys that we got to make sure we harness it. And then we've got some other guys that have shown the ability to do it at the D1 level. They just need to do it at the ACC level. So there's some depth there. There's some young guys like Coleman and Shalott, who were freshmen for us last year that are going to factor into this thing. And Reed's taking his steps forward. So there's a little bit of both. There's some returners. There's some transfers. Pat Gardner has a lot of experience as he's coming in from Fairleigh Dickinson. He was a former teammate at Cantwell. His personality and his leadership, he stepped in as an older guy in a new program, and he's kind of really taken over one of those weekend roles and leadership roles. You got the switchblade of Ethan Fireved coming back. He kind of did a little bit of everything for us, and I think he's just like, give me the ball, let me go pitch, and you kind of like that out of those guys. But we've had that success, with Fox being a Western PA guy coming back. We were able to bring back Drew Lafferty from Kentucky. Drew's got a sinking fastball and 3-pitch mix. I think he can factor in for us. Noah Chakowski has some high-end stuff. He's a transfer from St. Bonaventure. And then Andrew Gaines was a big arm that we got out of Iona. That's loud stuff, big physical, again, like Carrier and those guys in the outfield. This guy looks like an NFL tight end on the mound, but he's a hard worker and he's getting after it. So we like the pieces. Like anything, it's unproven. So, we just have to go out there and show it and not talk about it.
Well, I am not going to sleep on the program's ability to find a way to show up and prove it. Not anymore anyways. I don't know how privy to this you were, Mike, but it was on this show with a few weeks left in the season.
Okay.
Kind of a throwaway. Gravy and I were talking about the ACC tournament, and just kind of in a throwaway fashion, right? You look at the standings, you look at the remaining schedule.
Yeah.
It was with 2 or 3 weeks left remaining. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I just kind of, without really thinking about it, was like, okay, well, Pitt's probably not going to climb their way in. That's because of what they had left. And as a result, I got clowned for it a little bit on your guys' social media. I love it. It's fair game always.
It may or may
not sleep on you guys down the stretch ever again.
It may or may not have been with 2 weeks left. Florida State at home and on the road at Miami. I may or may not have known about it. We did win 2 series. In Panther fashion, when I say this, we struck out 17 times on Friday from their left-handed starter, but we beat them 1-0. You know what I mean? A nice shut piece on Friday. So that was a beautiful thing. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm glad you were in tune with what was going on there. And again, it's all fair game. Just safe to say, I'm not going to sleep on your Panthers again. Probably not, at least this year.
We were in playoff mode. I mean, we knew the grind of our season, and you knew each and every win how important it was. And I mean, it was, I believe, us and Notre Dame, if I remember right. But to the last day of the season, you know, you got to, okay, yeah, we did what we did against Florida State. Now you got to go win against Miami. What do you need? 1 win, 2 wins, 3 wins? It was going to go day by day. And I said it on the front end, the depth of this league. It's just, I'm sorry, but you put them in the postseason, I think you can take 1 to 16 and they're going to make a run. They really are.
Yeah. Last thing for you, I'm with last year's late run in mind, with 2021 and 2022 in mind. Those teams were great and made pushes. At this time of year, do you have everything you need to determine, okay, this is the kind of group that could do some damage like that maybe have that kind of edge late in the season? What goes into a run like that?
Well, we always strive to play our best. And I think any coach would tell you want to be just as strong, if not stronger, at the end of the year than you are at the beginning of the year. It's not how you start this thing. It's how you finish. And we've seen it around the country for years. It's not always the best team that's the last one standing in Omaha, but maybe the one that was playing their best at the right time. And that's the beautiful thing about baseball. Anybody can beat anybody any given day. Are we a finished product when we go out there Valentine's weekend to start the season? No, we are not. You have to survive the grind. You got to keep guys healthy. You have to continue to grow. You have to develop. Your freshmen should not be freshmen by the end of the year. And I said it earlier, Piscaretta's at bats, you know, the last 2-3 weekends, those were like sophomore type at bats, even though he was a true freshman. Like, that's the way it should be. So no, you don't know. You just want to make sure you're in striking distance, you're healthy enough, and you are ready to go to compete at the highest level at the most important time of the season. The hardest part about it is surviving the grind of the season and making sure you're doing the things correctly along the way. When I say preseason and out of conference, so the computers tell you that you're one of those teams. We all know 1 to 16, we're one of those teams. No questions whatsoever. But do the computers tell you? Do the people in the room tell you?
Yeah. I'm excited, man. I think it's going to be a really good year for the league. I'm excited to see what your Panthers are capable of. It's always a joy talking. I'm sure I'll see you at some point. You guys are down in North Carolina a couple of times this year, right?
It feels like everybody in the league goes to North Carolina. There's no doubt about it. Yes. Yeah. We're down there a couple of times.
I will likely see you then, but my thanks as always for your time, Mike. I appreciate it, and best of luck this season.
Always here for you guys. Appreciate your coverage and what you guys do, not only for our league, but more importantly, college baseball. So appreciate it. Hail to Pitt.